Okay, so this video is going to be a little bit different. I basically wanted to address or sort of clear up a bit of a misconception that I think some Yu-Gi-Oh viewers have about me and my history with Yu-Gi-Oh, my relationship with Yu-Gi-Oh, and how it sort of shapes my opinions and insights in the broader Yu-Gi-Oh discourse. So basically, I get comments fairly frequently that will go something to the effect of, well, Paul, you don't understand this Yu-Gi-Oh issue because you're just a casual player. Of course, you would think that. And as you guys know, I have plenty of opinions that I share on this channel. So sometimes Konami will drop a new ban list, or I'll make a ban list prediction video. Sometimes, like a new deck will win or come on the scene, or I'll have an issue with a type of Yu-Gi-Oh product, or just some other community-driven thing about the Yu-Gi-Oh TCG or Master Duel or what have you, and I'll have people who sort of want to discount what I've got to say because, in their opinion at least, they think that I am a filthy casual player. Or just, I don't play enough Yu Gi Oh! To really know what I'm talking about. I don't know how these decks work. I don't know how tournaments go. I don't know what makes good or bad or whatever. And so that's kind of why I wanted to make this video because I think that these people are kind of misinformed, but I totally understand why they might feel that way. So, backing up a bit, if you watch this channel or the main Team APS channel, I appreciate you, by the way, thank you. It'd be easy to think that I'm a casual Yu Gi Oh! Enthusiast player, and that isn't untrue. So basically, we make loads of videos with lots of retro, old school Yu Gi Oh! Products, started at Yugi, started at Kaiba, Metal Raider, Spell Ruler, LOB, stuff like that. We make a lot of casual things where we'll be like buying a mystery box off eBay or some mystery deck, right? Just playing kind of random duels with random rules like hot sauce challenge or spin the wheel challenge or coin versus dice deck, right? So if you watch that sort of thing, it'd be really easy to think, well, okay, he must not really like be into competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Like he's sitting here making these silly videos that, are just kind of a big mess and we're all just kind of playing with random cards and there's like lots of misplays and we're kind of just goofing around, right? So I totally get it. In addition to that, I also have a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh merchandise. I've got like Kaiba Corp shirt, Blue Eyes cap, big giant pot of greed. It's not to say that like a competitive player can't have these things or anything like that, but I do think that there's kind of a connotation or a bit of a connection in people's heads with like that seems like maybe more of like an anime person. Like he likes the anime and kind of like the playground Yu-Gi-Oh. He's a Yugi boomer. That's a word that gets thrown around a lot. And so when it comes to my opinions on, how the game is going, maybe how products are going, how the formats look, my issues with modern Yu-Gi-Oh, it would be pretty easy to discount it as like, well, okay, he just doesn't really like what he doesn't know what he's talking about, right? Like he doesn't know how X deck works, or he doesn't know, what the competitive scene is like. So that is where you guys who do think that, I'm not saying everybody does, but for those of you who think that, are sorely mistaken. And that's why I wanted to explain. So my history with Yu-Gi-Oh starts like most people's. I watched the show and stuff as a kid on TV. Got to start at Yu-Gi, got started at Kaiba 2002, played it, all that stuff. However, I quit Yu-Gi-Oh in around like 2004 or 5 and got back into Yu-Gi-Oh in 2008. And from that point onwards, basically, I was very much a serious Yu-Gi-Oh TCG player. I focused a lot on improvement. I really wanted to just get good at the game fast. At the time, I was only like 13 or 14, so I didn't really have like, monetary resources to dump into the game, but I tried to make up for that with like knowledge and stuff like that. So basically, I was always reading every single Yu-Gi-Oh guide or like forum post or whatever that I could find. I literally like I remember I was like a big on Pojo, Duelist Grounds, TCG Player when they were still like early in the kind of publishing Yu-Gi-Oh articles. I would read everything I could. I loved just like engaging with the game in that way. I liked reading magazines when those were still out. And I would go to locals, and even though I wasn't one of the like top players, I would always listen to what the top players had to say. I was always super excited to play in tournaments. Even though I couldn't afford the best things, I tried to learn about every sort of different deck style that I could and like build or play decks to the best of my ability and learn, okay, like what is a control deck? What does a stun deck look like? How do you play like more of like a swarm deck? Aggro versus sort of control, learning about card economy, things like that. I met some really awesome people who've helped me loads and loads and loads with actually getting really good at Yu-Gi-Oh and learning those concepts and applying them. And as far as my competitive history with the game goes, I actually have really been around the block, I would say. Obviously, I've played in lots of locals and won many locals, but it goes much further than that. I have played in regional events, like traveled hours to go to many different regionals. I went to a lot of regionals in Texas specifically between the years of like 2010 and 2017-ish. I would go to a lot of regionals, and actually I've gone to them even since then, but I've gone to lots of regionals. I've gone to several different YCS events, and I know, what it's like. I know about, prepping your deck, play testing before the event, kind of preparing for the format, what it's like to actually sit down at the table. And I've actually managed to top and get invites at a couple of different regionals. I've managed to win OTS championships at different stores. And even though I'm not like, top to YCS, I'm not saying like I'm a super duper amazing player. I've been there. I've lived the life. In fact, more so than even that, I've worked kind of behind the scenes with Yu-Gi-Oh as well. So I have done, tournament coverage when it comes to like covering deck lists, getting like different players' insights into things, making the pie charts and stuff around like what deck did or didn't win, that sort of stuff, right? I've also worked as a Yu-Gi-Oh judge. So I've judged a couple of regionals and several locals as well. So I've gotten the whole like, rulings and just how tournament policy and stuff like that goes. I really have kind of done just about everything. I feel like the only Yu-Gi-Oh thing that I haven't truly done is like maybe commentary at this point. But yeah, I've gotten to talk with a lot of super, top level Yu-Gi-Oh players. Whenever I get the chance to speak with them, I love, love, love to hear their insights into the game because it's really intriguing what, the best, brightest minds and best achieving, modern players are thinking about this game, like what's going on in their head. And that stuff is really fascinating to me. I also play a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, like a lot of Master Duel. I get to Master Rank 1 every single season I can. I try to do it with different decks. I've done it with Exo Sisters, I've done it with Vanquish Soul, I've done it with Dogmatica, I've done it with Rescue Ace. I like play Master Duel to death, and I really, really love getting into like a nitty gritty, down and dirty game of Yu Gi Oh! I like to bait out cards. I like to break boards. I want to interact. I know a lot about like how that goes. I study the best decks and stuff like that. I do want to keep up with Yu-Gi-Oh, and I do. So that's something that I have done for many years. And I don't say that as like a flex or a brag. Again, I am not a top level Yu-Gi-Oh player. I'm just saying that I've been there. I've, walked the walk. I have played in these tournaments. I've done this stuff. So, conversely, I'm also a very casual Yu-Gi-Oh player, and in my opinion, a bit of an empathetic one. I make a lot of decks nowadays for fun. I like to sort of find a deck that seems like it's got a neat and interesting gimmick, and I build it. I remember playing the Tenyi deck long before Sword Soul came out because I thought it was cool, or the Dual Avatar deck, right? I play decks that are kind of fun and quirky and weird and mid-range. I like playing generators. I like playing the Rika deck. This was like, before Sun Avalon and some of the other new stuff came out. And I still have all these decks built. And I still like to also play, new, more competitive decks. I have a Labyrinth deck built. I've got a Horus deck built. I've got a, what do I have? Voiceless Voice I just recently finished. All of that, sorry, is inside of this box. Like, I build these decks. I do actually play in real life. I don't get to go to locals as much as I'd like to anymore, usually because I'm busy with content and stuff like that. But I still go to sneak peeks where I can. Like whenever there's a local sneak peek, I try to go, enter, show support. I go to locals and like just see what people are up to. I try to like hand out extra stuff that I get because companies will send sleeves and starter decks and structure decks and just all these different products and stuff. And so I like to help people with that. In fact, helping people is another thing that I'm also pretty big on. Behind the scenes, this is not something that I like, make content and stuff out of. I like to help new players get better at the game, learn, how to improve, what types of decks they would be really well suited to. And doing that kind of takes a bit of an understanding of Yu-Gi-Oh. So, I say all this because this whole, playing Yu-Gi-Oh thing and making content around it, making so many videos and stuff has sort of exposed me to a lot of different opinions about Yu-Gi-Oh. And that's actually kind of why I make so many discussion videos and stuff on this channel is because I've got a lot of opinions about Yu-Gi-Oh and how it's run. I'm very critical of the game. Sometimes people just think that I'm just like, being negative and complaining like, "Oh, is that all you do on this channel? There's another video complaining about Yu-Gi-Oh, right?" But I'm critical of Konami and how they do certain things. I've also worked with Konami on things. I've worked with them on sponsored videos for like on my own channels, on like their channels and stuff. I've been to Yu-Gi-Oh Worlds and like seen, kind of things like that. I've been in the Konami office. I sort of know a bit more about like how the sausage is made, but it's also caused me to, be more thoughtful about like What is Yu-Gi-Oh doing to cater to new players? What is Yu-Gi-Oh doing to cater to budget players? What's Yu-Gi-Oh doing to cater to the competitive crowd? How can Yu-Gi-Oh grow? I want like more people to be able to play and enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh, and for that reason I sometimes find like the modern game can be a bit, overbearing for people. And I know this from experience because I've tried to, teach people Yu-Gi-Oh. I've observed people's opinions on Yu-Gi-Oh. I read comments every day on my own content, but also like on the Facebook pages and the Instagram pages and all that stuff about what people think of new cards and how people are feeling about a product or the ban list or whatever. And it's a lot to kind of parse and like process and stuff, but that's why I like making these videos, is because I want to talk about this stuff. I think that there's a bit of an issue, and this sort of plagues the internet in general, where things always, it feels like people kind of expect issues to be super binary, right? If you're a casual player, then it must mean you're a anime Yugi boomer, playground Yu-Gi-Oh trash, and you don't know anything about the modern game. You're just complaining, or vice versa, right? When in reality, so much of Yu-Gi-Oh occurs in shades of gray. Every Yu-Gi-Oh product that Konami releases has to kind of try to appeal to a lot of different crowds. How do you hit the budget players? How do you hit the casual players, the anime fans, the competitive heads? Everybody kind of consumes these products in different ways. Everybody plays Master Duel and expects different things from it. Everybody kind of wants different stuff out of a ban list, and it's difficult to please everybody. And so when I talk about things on this channel or give my insights, it's not just coming from like a casual player background because I only play with like starter decks and eBay mystery boxes on my channel. I very much play, the down and dirty Yu-Gi-Oh that you sort of know about. It's just that I kind of have switches, right? I play more casually with certain friends. I play more competitively with certain friends. If somebody asks me to play test for an upcoming event, I know how to lock in. But also, if somebody just kind of wants to mess around with their new, Shining Sarcophagus Yugi deck or something like that, I know how to kind of like dial down the pace and like play a little bit slower, hold back. I don't like kill people in one turn if I think that the game could be more fun that way. There are, decks that I play without any hand traps, and like I don't maybe play like super powerful board breakers like an evenly matched or an Ibiru because I know how that changes the Yu-Gi-Oh experience. Another thing that I would add too is I go to a lot of conventions, so sometimes I'll get sort of insights and opinions, and I get to chat with people who don't really know very much about the Yu-Gi-Oh tournament scene, and they just kind of remember Yu-Gi-Oh as it was, and so like they might have Yu-Gi-Oh cards at these conventions in like a free play area, but people are literally just opening packs, not knowing what's inside, not knowing how Yu-Gi-Oh works, but they might recognize me just kind of from seeing a random stray video, and I can make conversation with them. And that's a perspective of Yu-Gi-Oh player that I feel isn't always heard, but like is still very important. So, oh God, I feel like I've kind of lost the plot here. The basic thing is, I want people to rest assured that when I talk about Yu Gi Oh! Critically, I do try to consider as many different points and perspectives as I can, and I've got my own opinions to share. They're very much my opinions. I'm not, like a Konami lapdog, so to speak, right? I've had opportunities to speak with them and express sort of discontent or suggestions that I have for Yu-Gi-Oh! And I, have been through the regional grind, but I also like playing casually. I'm also just a fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! As like a brand, right? I've got Funko Pops, I've got caps like this, and toys and figures and stuff like that. I just sort of see Yu-Gi-Oh as like one big hobby that I really like and I want a lot of people to like. And so when I suggest maybe, oh, they could do alternate formats or they could do the ban list this way or maybe products could improve like this. I'm not saying that I'm like right about everything. I think none of us really know exactly what it is to like manage the Yu-Gi-Oh IP, but just that know that like I've been around the block. I've kind of been through a lot of different walks of Yu-Gi-Oh life, and that's why I have so many sort of different and oftentimes conflicting opinions about the game. And also, I should just add here, I really, really appreciate the people who watch these videos and will give similarly kind of thought out responses to them. I know it's easy to just be like, oh, I hate this thing about Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! It's stupid. Or like they've ruined the game with Link Monsters, or you're just a stupid casual, what would you know? Right? But whenever people, watch the video and like they leave like these juicy, meaty paragraphs, I love reading them. I wish I could respond to all of them, but I at least try to like heart them and try to just show some sort of acknowledgement of them because I think that like it's fun to think about Yu-Gi-Oh. I don't want to just consume product and like do nothing else. I like to kind of point out critiques. I like to give kudos where I think Konami's done something well, or give suggestions where I think things could be improved. This stuff fascinates me. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I've got a long history with Yu-Gi-Oh. I've played many different kinds in many different ways, And I would also like to hear how you guys feel about Yu-Gi-Oh for yourself. Like, where do you stand as a Yu-Gi-Oh player? Are you purely competitive, purely casual? I doubt that anyone's exactly one or the other. I feel like everybody kind of lives somewhere in the middle. So yeah, that's it. Hopefully that kind of cleared some things up. Maybe reassured people that I do know what I'm talking about for the most part. Like I can very much be a competitive player, but also, I'm kind of just here for whoever I can be. Yeah, cool. All right. I've gone on long enough. This has been like 15 minutes, so Jesus. I'll see you guys in the next one, and I will be reading and responding to comments as per usual. Bastard.